welcome to the 6-5 Summit. I'm Shelley Kramer, one of the founding partners of Futurum Research, and on behalf of my team at Futurum and the team at Moor Insights and Strategies, welcome. We're glad to have you. In this spotlight session, Moor Insights and Strategies Patrick Moorhead sits down with Charles Furland, the Vice President and General Manager, Edge Computing and Communications Service Providers at Lenovo, and Cedric Bourly, the Director, Capgemini Invent and 5G Labs Program at Capgemini. Their conversation covers the big themes of edge computing and what's in store for this emerging technology over the course of the next decade. This is going to be a great conversation. Let's go have a listen.
Charles and Cedric, welcome to the 6-5 Summit 2021, and thank you so much for speaking here on day 3.
Happy to be here.
Maybe a great place to start is you can talk about what you do at Lenovo and Capgemini. Maybe Charles, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick. So basically at Lenovo, I run the edge computing organization. My team is responsible for developing the products, partnerships, the solutions related to edge computing.
Excellent. Cedric, how about you?
Yes, so on my side, I'm part of Capgemini. I'm in charge of the program dedicated to 5G labs. I'm running the labs in Paris and the labs in Mumbai, where it's dedicated to industries and the use cases dedicated for industries.
I love it. So the two of you are at the forefront of edge computing. And, it's funny, I talk to a lot of people. I talk to enterprises, I talk to CEOs of tech companies, and there's a lot of discussion. Hey, is this edge computing thing real? And what's the potential? Maybe I can give this one to Charles.
It's a legitimate question, to be honest, because we've been talking about edge computing and somehow it has existed in some shape or form for some time. But really over the last few months, 18 months, we've seen a lot of pilots and proof of concept coming along. But I would say it is becoming real because now we're starting to see shipments and projects that are in the hundreds, if not thousands of devices all over the world. So definitely becoming real. Definitely focus around where the data is actually created and all the use cases that requires data processing outside of the data center for better performance or insight at the edge is where we're starting to see some real interesting project at scale.
Yeah, what's been true since the beginning of IT is having your data processed as close as you can to where the data originated is always a smart thing. But there are some challenges with edge computing as opposed to, let's say, pulling it into the data center or pulling it into the public cloud. Can you talk about that, Charles?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the environment is very different, right? You're outside of a data center, therefore you need to have equipment that is ruggedized, that is resistant to shock and vibration, that can operate in higher temperature range. And we've been collaborating very closely with Intel in developing an edge portfolio that allows us to really have that equipment out and about, not in the data center. That being said, we understand the physical hardware is different, but there's two other elements that is actually crucial and are key challenges that we have to solve to make edge computing a success. The first one is the security. Now that you leave the perimeter of the data center, the device itself is at risk of being stolen, right? So we innovated in looking at ways to how do we anchor the device in a location so that it cannot easily be stolen. And more important, the data that it contains is now processed and stored in some cases directly at the edge, and you want to protect that data. So again, we innovated in putting motion detection and using encryption technology and GPS fencing so that the device itself, if it's stolen, cannot leak the data easily, right? And we have mechanism to lock down the data. That's one aspect on the security. The second one is the management. As you know, Patrick, we spent years mastering the tool set to manage thousands of servers and data centers. Now you have these servers in hundreds of thousands of locations. You don't have any technicians, or if you have a technician that can go on site, that will take hours, if not days. Therefore, a management tool set that allows us to deploy in an automated manner and manage that environment is actually crucial. And this is perhaps as much innovation and R&D we're spending in that area as in the product development itself.
Yes, you almost have to have a virtual IT person there and be able to do everything that an IT person could do on site as you can virtually. And, every time I go to a gas station or a retail store or a fast food restaurant, I see that server bolted to the wall or just sitting on the ground. And I'm wondering how much confidential customer data or credit card PII information is sitting here. So far, we've talked a little bit in the abstract so far about edge compute. Charles, can you talk a little bit about some real life examples of companies using edge computing and doing it successfully?
Okay, well, we're working with one of the largest drugstore company here in Canada that's actually rolling edge computing in all of their drugstores, really to effectively run the store application directly on the premise. In case of a network failure, in case of a failure of a cloud, they have that redundancy over there. We're also working with companies like BASF in Spain, where actually we've deployed a private wireless network and using AI to help technicians do some maintenances on the mission critical chemical components, and having a remote set of eyes helping them and having that video processed directly at the factory. And finally, one of the most exciting projects we have is with the city of Barcelona. We've deployed a private 5G network over there. We're deploying edge computing in many street cabinets throughout the city to host various use cases, I think 7 in total, that varies from smarter tourism application to security, traffic control, and many other use cases in Barcelona.
Yeah, and I know you're only allowed to talk about the customers that allow you, but I know that you're in a lot more interesting deployments. So it's just great stuff. So let's hear from Capgemini. Cedric, why do you think edge computing is getting so much more relevant now? Is it because of 5G? Is it something else? What's going on here?
Yeah, 5G and edge are tightly linked one to each other. Actually, 5G is the first generation of mobile communication that is designed for the industries and only for the mass public. Previous generation were dedicated to the mass public, and now we are really moving on the industrial side of it, and it's really a differentiator. Of course, 5G will support gaming use cases linked to live streaming of videos, but essentially the 5G technology is meant for industries, for smart cities, for smart factories. And it comes with a simple fact today. Today, the number of data that is being processed is exponentially growing. And now you need to get computing power very close to the network. And you need to get also limitation on the bandwidth that you will use, both for latency or real-time qualities or even sustainability conditions. So it's really a link very deep between 5G and edge. And what we see is really this convergence between the IT world, the OT world, and the network world overall. So that's typically what we have developed as part of the 5G labs. We have dedicated these labs to the application of use cases for 5G and edge, really to see how smart factories, smart cities, smart retail, smart UT can benefit from 5G and edge to get new transformation and new acceleration on these platforms. If I quote one very simple example, we have developed typically an autonomous intralogistic vehicle, AIV, which computes the calculation of picking up a package inside a warehouse at the edge, and not only at the device side, taking all the benefit from high power from edge side and cloud side with very less reactivity, powered by 5G network. So it's really impressive how all these technologies today are converging, and it's really the time, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited about 5G. It's the first G that's been truly fractional, right? If you need low bandwidth, low latency, you can get it. If you need high performance, high latency, actually flip those. you can get what you want. So 5G is relevant if you need 50,000 sensors on an energy pipeline, or if you need a very low latency, high bandwidth on the factory floor. It's the first G to do that. And if you have a standalone network, it all becomes a reality. So we have both Lenovo and Capgemini here. Can you talk, Cedric, what you're doing with Lenovo to enable edge compute?
Well, actually, we have worked with Lenovo from the beginning of the 5G Labs program. It's been a partnership going on for almost 2 years now. What we wanted, very simple, we wanted the latest generation of edge servers that could be installed for our industrial environments. So that's how we came out to work with Lenovo on this path. Second, we wanted to test the overall integration of a completely virtualized 5G standalone network on top of edge servers. And that's really something that was pretty complex, very interesting for deployment reason, and a technical upgrade, I would say, compared to the situation today. And we managed to do that with Lenovo. And last, we also wanted, obviously, to get devices and smart glasses, tablets, laptops connected through 5G standalone, and that's to cover the end-to-end of the use cases and the reason why we have done these labs. And Lenovo has been working with us very closely since the beginning. It's been a great achievement so far.
Yeah, as an industry analyst, we track different vendors, and I think you made a very good choice. I've been very impressed with Lenovo's offering in this space. There seems to be an offering for pretty much any edge use case out there. And Charles, I'm not saying this just because you're on here, but I think you've done a great job realigning Lenovo over the past couple of years for this market. So let's talk about the pandemic, right? Everybody, we always have to talk about the pandemic on a video here, but I'm curious, did it have any impact on the evolution of edge computing?
It certainly opened up many of the use case for greater automation, less staff or personnel on premise, and everything that could be automated through AI or artificial intelligence is actually a good use case, and that picked up a lot of momentum. I believe, though, the major change and transformation was around how the financial model were constructed around edge computing. CapEx and expenses were perhaps a little bit more challenged and looked very carefully. Therefore, it opened up a fantastic opportunity for Lenovo TrueScale, which is a pay-as-you-use model that allows customers to consume and deploy edge computing and pay as they grow. We meter the power consumption of the system itself. Therefore, the more the system is utilized in a month, the greater the invoice, and vice versa. If the system is only likely used, the monthly payment are reduced. That really appealed to our customer. That TrueScale offer, I think, was really picked up momentum following the pandemic because a lot of the customers wanted to align their expenses with operational charge rather than capital expense.
Cedric, how about you? Have you seen anything change in edge computing with the pandemic?
For me, the key learning of this crisis is that in order for the industries to be resilient, a constant and direct access to the data and the control of the processes is completely mandatory. We have seen that in supply chain. We have seen that in hospitals. It's working remotely can only be done through a complete control of the data. And that is made possible by intelligent algorithms that we need to execute real time close to the location of the production of the data. And it's close to the device. So it means new architectures, new hardwares, new software, and obviously a new connectivity. And that's really why we can't imagine what would have been the pandemic like 20 years ago if we hadn't had this technology. And I guess 5G and edge are really now the proof that it can help. And in the future crisis will be more resilient thanks to this progress, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I saw some incredible mobile applications, and I'm not talking about smartphones. I mean, they included smartphones, but essentially a full hospital had to be set up in what used to be a farm field, and they had to set up an IT shop with servers, networking, and storage with mobile devices, doing everything real time. And I was actually impressed at how quickly those were put into play. And also, even I saw restaurants who had reset their IT to be able to better serve people. Let's say when you pulled up in the parking lot, you had to tell them what number of the parking lot you were in so they could deliver food to you. And so these were very quick changes that only could have been done with computing that was closer to the edge, but very impressive nonetheless. So there's a lot of competition in this space for edge computing. Charles, this one's for you. What are things that distinguish Lenovo over some of the other vendors out there? I already talked about you have a super wide array of options, whether you want something in an elevator shaft, you want something bolted to the wall, you have a raised floor tile in the edge in a huge grocery store of some sort.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Patrick. I think what is super exciting about our Edge offering is really the coming together of our three main business units, right? Within Lenovo, we do have a PC or laptop business that is doing super well, and absolutely they understand how to build ruggedized systems, laptops that we build, that we put on our notebook, on our backpack, we drop them, we spill coffee, and they keep running for years, right? And how to produce these ruggedized components at scale in the factories is super important, and they contributed a lot to our edge computing strategy. Similar with the Motorola or the mobile colleagues, where often these edge computing devices are in remote location where there's no physical network connectivity, and we need to use wireless communication. Well, that's all good. However, most of the time, these edge servers are in a cabinet, in the manager's office, in the back store somewhere. Therefore, there's a very limited signal that comes in. And we work with our Motorola colleagues to optimize the wireless communication so that we have the optimal transmit and receive out of those systems. And finally, the data center division that really contributed to highly reliable servers, high performing servers, so that you don't want to service them every 2 years. You want to install them and let them running for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, basically. So it's really these three divisions of the PC, mobile, and data center group coming together that made our unique edge portfolio. And that, I think, sets us apart because we have know-how and expertise from all of these different groups that really come quite handy when we develop our edge portfolio.
That's really exciting. And, if there's one big piece of feedback I've given to all the Lenovo senior executives is, hey, find innovative ways to leverage all parts of Lenovo across the entire company. And I'll also bet that services are involved as well in that. To add to that trifecta of capabilities. So I think that's super exciting.
Thank you for pointing it out, Patrick. You're right that I should have mentioned that the ability to service in 180 market is really important when we're talking about edge computing. By nature, these deployments are highly distributed indeed.
Yeah, the other thing I'm following with you is your vertical integration. You're one of the few companies that has a lot of vertical integration in what you do. So great stuff, Charles. So let's talk about the future, right? The 6.5 Summit is a thought leadership summit. We have talked about the evolution of edge computing, kind of what's real, how we define it. But maybe I can start with you, Charles, and then Cedric. What are you most excited about in the future of edge computing? I mean, have we arrived and we stop innovating? Of course not. What are you seeing out there for the future?
Optimizing power consumption and cooling, temperature and power consumption, and research we're doing on liquid cooling and all of this is super exciting. I think one more realistic, immediate next step is the fact that we've deployed use cases using a specific device within an application and then a second application with a second device and all that. what we'll see over time is that you cannot have 6-7 devices in the store or in a gas station, each fulfilling a specific use cases. So we're working very closely with our partner to consolidate all of these on more powerful computing devices that actually host in virtual environment all of the use cases needed to operate in that location.
Yeah, it always was interesting. You walk into some of these edge sites and they have 4 or 5 different boxes. It reminds me of a data center in 1992. With different boxes for different applications. And I totally understand the sprawl, but my gosh, that's about as inefficient as it gets. And if you have a very reliable system that's there, you don't have the risk of a single point of failure, and you're secured because these applications are virtualized. So that is definitely the way to go. Cedric, how about you? What excites you about the future? What are you looking at?
Typically, one of the greatest interests that we see for 5G and edge is typically on the healthcare sector. I look forward to see what these technologies will bring for the assistance to the patient, for the augmented operating room, for everything linked to the mobility connectivity for patient transiting from home to hospitals, from taking care of patients with imagery. That's the typical use cases for healthcare that we do believe great future related to 5G and edge. Really interested to look forward to that.
Yeah, I love that use case. It leverages kind of the best of edge, which is it's portable, low latency, and high performance, and the ability to disconnect and not to have to be connected all the time. It's better when it's connected, but hey, if you're in a place that doesn't have coverage, you can get it. No, that's a great use case out there. So, gentlemen, this has been wonderful, but unfortunately, we are at time. I just want to thank you, Charles and Cedric, for coming on to the 6.5 Summit 2021. And I really appreciate for you making day 3 a lot better.
Thank you, Patrick, for having us. Thank you, Cedric, for the great collaboration.
Excellent. Thanks, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy. Hope you're enjoying day 3. We have a lot more great content and speakers to go. Have a great day.